The time being 5:03, I'll open the first meeting of 2023. Welcome everybody. We have Councillor Basalt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Elliott and myself present. We'll start with the confirmation of minutes. Does anybody want to move? Councillor Dutta?
Can I query the minutes? That's okay. I just wanted to ask a question about people on Zoom just letting us know when they leave the meeting, because that didn't occur last time and it was a bit of an issue. It was a bit awkward for all of us. I just wonder whether we can have some sort of an understanding that if you're on Zoom and you leave the meeting, you do announce that first.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I can make a note of that.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments on the minutes? No? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no. That's carried. To consideration of supplementary items. Don't think there are not any. Part 3, indications of pecuniary conflicts of interest. Are there any? No. Moving along. 4, transfer of agenda items. I don't think there's any need for that. Part 5, planning authority, considerations of items with deputations, which we only have one anyway, which is 17 Beach Road.
Move we hear that.
Councillor Harvey, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Righty, Council now acting as a planning authority. We have item 5.1.1, 17 Beach Road. We have 2 representatives making deputations, then we have the applicants. We have representatives of the applicants ready to answer some questions. So the first up is Mr. John McLeod. That table there on the end there. Yep. And just pull the microphone towards you. So there we go. So you'll have 5 minutes. I'll give you a warning when we've got 30 seconds left, and then we'll probably have some questions for you.
I'll try to speak quickly. Well, thank you for the opportunity to present our concerns regarding the proposed lighting at Sandown Oval 2. The recommendation of the Planning Committee is to approve the application for lighting on Sandown Oval 2 for reasons in the report with some conditions. Amongst those conditions were the noise generated by the use must not cause environmental harm, the flood lighting must operate in accordance to the Australian standard, the use of the site must occur within the hours set until 10 p.m. daily, with the lights turned off automatically at 9 p.m. The reason for these conditions was stated to be do not have an unreasonable impact on residential amenity, but it will. It's not understood how the use of the site could continue until 10 p.m. with the lights suggested to be turned off at 9, particularly in winter. The difference between the hours of operation suggested for Oval 2 until 10 p.m. compared with that of Oval 1 until 8:30 p.m. has been the change in assessment from the previous planning scheme. One would hope that the new scheme would not reduce the amenity to residents. This is going to have a negative impact on our residential amenity. Some of the planning terminology used in the committee report are beyond understanding of a mere mortal such as I. But I note that while building heights of the towers, hours of operation are exceeded, there are performance criteria that can be applied to overcome these planning regulations. Just a few points that I just can't leave unchallenged. It is stated that in the proposal that the proposal will exceed the allowable noise emission and does not demonstrate compliance with acceptable solution. The report suggests that the source and level of noise emissions remain unchanged from the existing use, and goes on to say that although a degree of noise is expected into the evening and beyond which currently occurs on the site, it is considered that it's not unreasonable in its duration and will not cause environmental harm within the residential zone. This is obviously the author's opinion without any basis and is totally unacceptable. It is the extension of the time that the noise will be emitting from the oval that is most annoying, and also the departing vehicle movers, as well as the players and the supporters. Hours of operation. The acceptable solution described in the report requires the use of the site until 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Saturday and 5 p.m. on Sunday and public holidays. However, the proposal seeks that the operating hours be extended to 10 p.m. daily, a 37% increase. Using the suggested performance criteria, the hours of operation within 50 metres of a residential zone must not have an unreasonable impact on the residential land. The report suggests that the nearest residential land is approximately 15 metres from Oval 2, and this land is separated from the site by large trees and Sandown Avenue. While this might be true for the ground on which the game is being played, it's not the case for the associated vehicles and occupants. These are parked outside our house, in Beechworth Road and Sandown Avenue. Lighting. The report indicates that the standard for all external lighting complies with acceptable standards. However, all this seems to be predicated on the light spill and the associated charts that are contained within the report. But there are three issues relating to outdoor sports lighting. There's light spill, which has been described, glare and sky glow. Light spill is that light that trespasses or spills out into the intended areas covered in the report. Glare is a bit of a subjective term that refers to the sensation experienced when you look at a bright light, and sky glow is that light that overflows in the sky above the horizon and illuminates moisture and other tiny particles in the atmosphere. This is the experience that one can experience that when I look across the river at the Blunston Arena. It's a column of light. Neither of these two additional elements of the effect of the introduced lighting on nearby residential property has been addressed in the report. In summary...
30 seconds left.
In summary, there's a huge difference between the current and acceptable hours of operation for associated lighting and the noise from players and supporters departing and vehicular activity. It is the noise and the hours of operation that will have the greatest effect on our amenity. It's disturbing to me that this is council land, a council proposed development, assessed and recommended for approval by council officers, and now for the final decision delegated to the council planning committee. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Dutta.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, you made a number of statements. I just want to clarify, please, if you'd be able to, Mr. McLeod. With regards to timing, you referred to the 8:30, which was under a different scheme, and this one here is 10 o'clock. Would you be happy for a compromise if this was reduced to 8:30?
Well, to answer that in two ways, what I don't fully understand is that the hours of operation suggested in the report is till 10, yet the lighting is going to be turned off at 9. If the lighting is now going to be suggesting turn off at 8:30, it's not much different, but is it the operation we're talking about till 8:30 and the lights turned off at 8? Yep, I think I'd agree. That's my opinion, not my learned neighbour.
The second question that I have through you, Chair, again to you, Mr. McLeod, with regards to the point you have made that as far as you are concerned, the impact on the amenity is not unreasonable. Now, the report, according to the staff, what they're saying that it is in fact reasonable, and my question to you is this, what sort of adverse effects have you experienced in the past, and have you made any complaints with the noise, etc., that goes on?
No, I've not made any complaints about the noise. In fact, there's probably the only complaints we've ever made is the fact that the soccer balls are kicked over into our garden and destroying our gates when they climb over them, but nevertheless that's a complaint, but not the noise so much. My thought is, and my concern is, that if they extend the time frame beyond which is used, that the ground is being used right now, that there will be an effect, but I can't make a complaint then because it's already going to be passed, it's going to be allowable.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Councillor Loberger.
Just through you, Chair. Do you have any, is there any particular night of the week where a late operation would be worse than other nights, or is this sort of a whole week long? Probably particularly thinking about Sunday night here.
Yeah, I mean, I would think Sunday night would probably be the worst night from the point of view that's it's perceived. I mean, I'm not quite sure working from home has changed all that, but perceived as that's the day, the night before everybody goes back to work. Saturday night, you probably think it's more realistic, given the fact that probably a lot of sports activity do take place on Saturday evenings. So that's not unreasonable to have a difference for that. But across the board, I mean, right now I've got grandchildren staying with me, a 2- and a 4-year-old. We want to get them to bed at a reasonable time. If there was a huge glow outside with cheery farewells at 10 o'clock at night, I don't think that would be satisfactory, and I would complain. But I'm not sure who I'd complain to.
Thank you for your response.
Any other, Councillor Kelly?
Susan, was it? What's your experience with the lights? Once the light goes out, are there still people milling around long after that, once the lights go out, or is there plenty of time for people to pack up and go during that period?
I can answer that in two ways. Oval 2 doesn't have any lights yet, so we haven't experienced it. But the way the report is written, you'd have to wonder if the lights are off, how long does it take people to disperse in the dark? I'm not quite sure.
Could I reply to that one?
No. You'll have that opportunity. You're speaking next, eh? Yeah, you'll have that opportunity then, but not right now. Any other questions? No? Thank you for your time, Ms. McLeod.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to...
Alderman Brakelson. And thank you for the response I got from the Aldermen and councillors who did reply to my emails. Thank you.
We'll now move on to Mr. Kevin Wilson.
Kevin Wilson from 11 Sandown Avenue.
Thank you. You'll have 5 minutes and then we'll have some questions for you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present our concerns regarding the proposed floodlights on pitch 2 at Sandown Park. We bought this property in 2008 when the football pitches, 2 of them, ran south to north and were primarily used for under 7s and up to under 11s. Currently, there is one pitch running east to west. Our main concerns about this ill-conceived application: light from floodlights. The difficult to navigate plan shows the outer line of light from the floodlights falling squarely over our property, which illuminate the 2 reception rooms on the ground floor and the bedrooms on the upper level. Even with a 10 p.m. shut-off, this will affect our ability to use those bedrooms prior to 10 p.m. Noise. Whilst there will be additional noise with games likely to start, and this is my guess, 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, usually for youth matches, the main concern will be the training evenings. These are not only youths but adults with great ability to kick the ball further, harder. Having played football for many years and understanding the training regime, there will have many shots at goal, lots of shouting and expletives, with instructions, whistles sound off constantly. Typically in a match there might be 10 shots or a goal each half, maybe less than 40% on target. The rest gets sprayed in every direction due to levels of competence. And I draw your attention to the woefully inadequate netting behind the goal that results in lots of balls in our garden and in John's yard as well. During training, number of training shots will be increased by at least tenfold. In fact, I know there is a challenge some younger men take on to try and kick the ball over our house. We have had so many balls and players entering our property to retrieve balls, and not all of them have been civil. Car parking and car movement. Currently there are 20 spaces between pitch 1 and pitch 2 in the car park. There are approximately 8 spaces on a parking area next to pitch 2. If pitch 1 and pitch 2 have 2 games per evening, with an average of 15 players, plus say 5 coaching staff and helpers, that is 80 people at the changeover of games. Let's say there are 2 people per car, which is optimistic these days. That is 40 cars in the hours between 6:30 and 7:30, based on those times. There is simply not enough parking, and the slamming of doors and movement of traffic will be unbearable. In conclusion, we love living opposite a park where sport is played, and except on occasions there will be some car park issues. But increasing the hours of use by installing floodlights will reduce the ability for people to walk their dogs or carry out their own exercise on pitch 2, and as it will reduce our ability to enjoy our home. I also noticed there's no provision for the lights to be powered by a battery-stored solar energy, which could be positioned on the changing room building. There are two things that aren't quite relevant to the lights, but I think are worth saying. The ground, which was renovated last year at great expense, is not fit for purpose. I wouldn't play football on it. It's dangerous, and I haven't seen any improvement in that in the last 6 months. And secondly, this is a thought in the last 10 minutes, this could be done a lot cheaper and easier. You could level off the bank to the left towards the beach and create 2 pitches running the long way from the beach towards pitch 1. Then you could have 2 pitches either side. Those 2 pitches could be used during the existing hours, and you wouldn't be spending $250,000 on lights. And I think you'd probably have a better facility. Thank you so much for your time, and I've got pictures here of the netting that has not been maintained, and basically balls go through it, if anybody wants to have a look at those. I'm open for any questions.
Any questions?
Could I answer that question from
Sure.
The pitch 1 has had lights, and so many times the lights are still on and the players have all gone home, which is obviously must be annoying for the residents down there, but also a terrible waste of electricity and resources.
Councillor Dada and then Councillor Lohberger.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, with regards to the points that you have raised about the balls being kicked into your yard and also the lights, now have you made any complaints with regards to these 2 issues?
Balls? No, I've dealt with it myself. I mean, you know, majority of people are okay. I mean, they hit cars, and that comes with the territory. But when people climb over your electric fence, gates, and you know, put them out the whack, and there's balls in the back, even in the back garden, right over the top of the house. What can you do? You go and confront the coach, and you're going to have you know, a nasty situation. So we haven't made any complaints about it, no. But I did make a complaint, and there were nets installed. This was some time ago, which is one of the nets is actually hasn't been maintained correctly.
Councillor Lohberger.
Thanks for attending. I'm just going to ask the same question, really. Do you have any particular concerns about specific nights during the week, or is your concern through the
Yes, I think you'll find that training, a decent football team will train for 2 nights a week. Probably the pitch 1 is used mostly for a B-side soccer club, and their first team would probably train 3 nights a week. You know, old duffers like me might train once a week. So you would be getting training from Monday to Friday. Saturday would only be games because people won't train because they'll be played Saturday or Sunday. So I think we'll find extra training because those lights are available for a longer period, and that is the shouting, the screaming, balls flying all over the place. That's my major concern, rather than the matches, where they tend to be quite controlled, and you know, you get the odd ball from errant kick. But you know, it's a training where it's high intensity. You've got adults on there, and balls are flying everywhere.
Councillor Harvey.
Just with regard to the nets,
Yeah.
you are suggested they're not maintained, or they're not up to standards, or what's wrong with the nets specifically?
Well, if you look at one of the pictures, there's a great. The top thing has been dropped down completely, so it's not effective for the top couple of metres. Can I'll come up with Yeah, you can see that there.
Yeah, so you see that one? It's not on here though.
There's nothing there.
And there is nothing.
No, that's the point. You know, really, I haven't put John's property there, but a solution to that would put nets all the way along there. It's been similar to the croquet club at the other end on pitch 1. They've got much more resourceful nets, which probably do a job. You know, these are, you know, they've helped, but they're not the solution. If the nets were all the way along there, that would stop quite a few balls. And the other issue is that, you know, young kids go running after a ball that's gone over the net, and there's traffic going along there. You know, you really wouldn't want to see an accident. I mean, it's a quiet road, but it could still happen.
Was there a follow? Can those photos be passed around, please? So yeah. Were there any other questions? I did have one. So you did mention, I think I heard you say that there's been a couple of times where, thank you, where the lights have not been shut off when they should have been shut off.
On pitch 1, yes.
Is that a common occurrence, or is that?
It used to be. I mean, I must say I didn't notice so much last winter, but it used to be illuminated, so it was, you know, like, it was quite spectacular. There was nobody on the pitch, on the ground, and it was, you know, the lights were on there. So I don't know if there's now a time on there, so that could have been rectified.
And when they have been left on, they've just been left on overnight, have they? Or?
No, they do go off. They do go off eventually. It's just that, you know, they could be on there for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour without anybody on there.
Oh, I'm with you. Okay.
And that's after the last cars have gone. They're not. No, they're never left on all, overnight.
Any other questions? No. Thank you for your time. If you could take your seat.
Yes.
We now have the.
Sorry, we have Kelly Williams, who's the Acting Manager, Sport and Recreation, and we have officers from JMG who have assisted in putting the application together.
Do you guys want to? I'm sure we'll have some questions for you if you guys want to take a seat at the front there. Hello, thank you. I don't know if you guys want to respond to any of the comments or if you just want to jump into questions.
My name's Katrina Hill and I'm from JMG. Lodged the application on behalf of council, so use of the site and duration and operations of the site. But Lisa Terry I've also brought along, who designed the lighting system, can answer those very specific questions. Much better than myself.
Of course. So yeah, go for it. Did you want to make any statement before you jumped into questions, or?
So I think we did talk about, in terms of the hours of spread, right now we've got a lot of clubs trying to use the ground at once. The lights will enable those same people to use it for a little bit longer. And we were also happy to discuss sort of a reduction from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock, which would just, you know, shave off an hour, turn off the lights and be out at 9.
And sorry to interrupt, that's across the board?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think some of the other issues around the lights is probably really relevant to talk about now.
And when they automatically turn off, and who's got control of those lights, which is council.
So the lighting design is designed to meet an Australian standard 2050-60 for soccer. This oval is designed for 200 lux. Of course, the lights can be dimmed down to 100 or 50, depending. And they can be rotated around the entire oval, so you get all use of the oval, not wear and tear on one end. The Australian standard for obtrusive light is 4282, and there is that's been quite clearly designed and depicted here. There is no light levels that exceed the required levels across during the operations of lights across a fence line or into somebody's property. They're all within the parameters that we designed to, and they've met those parameters. So there's no issue with that. Upward light spill, every lighting designer does not design to light to the sky. All light fittings now are flat based, so they do not shine up in any way, shape or form, and they're very succinct in their output, so they're designed to just light that oval and nothing else. They can all be adjusted should anybody see something that they might consider glary when they're looking up into it, and they can be adjusted to suit that, but we wouldn't know that until they were up and operational.
Great. I've got a few questions, but I did see Councillor Harvey with his hand up, so we'll start with him.
Yeah, most of my questions are answered. I just want to have a look at the lux. 200 lux, is that match standard?
Yes, that's for training.
Training
And-
standard or
and
match standard?
Yes, and match.
Okay.
So the big comparison to Blunston Arena, that's 4,000 lux.
Yeah.
In the centre, that's in the centre.
Yeah.
Sorry, interjected there. Blunston Arena is designed for high definition television, so obviously those levels are much higher for high definition. The 4,000 lux is actually the cricket pitch, so that the ball play could be easily seen on the screen and for the viewers.
Yep, okay. So will the lights be on at 200 lux all the time when they're used, or will practice sessions be done at 50 lux or 100 lux?
They have the opportunity to reduce to 150, and as I said, you could go around all quadrants of that oval. You don't have to have them all on.
Yeah.
So you could play one half, or one half either way around the oval. They would only be 200 lux if they were playing a match, not a professional competitive match.
Okay.
And I don't know what the timelines are for those. I don't know what the
Well, it
schedule
would be
is.
during the week on a regular basis.
And the under sevens would all be impaired by the...
Absolutely.
So just a couple of clarifiers. So in terms of some of the kind of historic recollections of sporting pitches and things, has the change from halogen to LED powered lights significantly reduced light spill and upwards glare and all of that kind of ambient light that gets thrown out that you don't need?
That also comes down to the choice of light that you select. And once again, I've gone to this flat-based fitting, so that means all the light is coming out and down. It doesn't spill out. It has a little bit out to the side or the rear of it, but that's about it. And that can be controlled depending on what. The previous light fittings would have been metal halide, so they're gas-charged fitting. They take a lot longer, a lot harder to control, and much bigger fittings. So things have changed. Technology has changed. And these are what we call smart fittings, and they can all be controlled back at the City of Hobart. They can be switched on, switched off, whatever you want to do with them.
So just to clarify, they have the capacity to be remotely controlled. The fitting themselves are much smaller than the historic ones that we're used to seeing, and the light spill and light wash is much more. It's a much more direct light. Sure. Second question, just on usage. What's the primary age group that will be using this particular field? Is it juniors? Is it seniors? And are there limitations at the moment because of sheer numbers of people wanting to play soccer and the length of the day in the depths of winter?
So you'd be looking at kind of more of your senior groups, probably around your 14 to adults age groups that would use those lights at that time. And at the moment, too many people are trying to use it at other times or can't actually play. So the extra time will enable that spread to just, it'll be less wear and tear on the ground as well because you won't have the volume, and it just means more people can get involved and participate.
So it should increase participation?
Absolutely, it will, because it'll enable them to practice where they can't now.
Right, thank you.
Just jump in before I'll go Alderman Bloomfield, then Councillor Lowbagger, but just before I forget on the back of that, if they are, like you said, the smart fittings, they're going to be, they can be remotely adjusted or switched on or off from council, I suppose, would there be the option or the mechanism to just say to the clubs and people using it, these lights are going to turn off at X time, like take it or leave, like there's no, like, and have that managed from council?
I believe that's what they already do.
They do
Because
that.
all of the lights we've done of recent are all of the same, are smart lights.
Okay, all right, cool. Alderman Bloomfield.
One of them was, my understanding is the one that we're presently looking into eliminating is a smaller oval, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep, so that one won't actually have matches on it, it's not the right size for matches, or it is for young kids?
No, it will be able to have matches, yeah.
Question was associated with the new light systems that are going in. How do they compare with what's currently installed? Because the ones that are currently installed are obviously the older style models. So are we going to see, from the looks of what we're discussing, what will be installed will be somewhat more direct, kind of appropriate to residential than we've had currently? I was just wondering, what's the difference? How profound is that?
I actually don't even know what's at the other oval, and I don't even know what it's illuminated to.
And we probably couldn't tell because they dim over time.
Yeah, I've got no idea when they put them in even. Yeah, and they do actually lose their capacity after a period of time.
That we have residents who have experienced the current installation and they will be thinking, well, this installation is going to be happening over here. But actually what you're talking about is there's a totally different installation going on with very different models, very different specs, the whole works. It'd be lovely to be able to explain how it's going to be so much different. Like,
I think
how that difference will be.
I think your best comparison would be Queenborough Oval. We recently put in sort of similar lights to this a few years ago, and that experience is very similar to the one you'll have at Sandown too. So, which is very minimal spill. And I think people do think of the old lights, whereas now, you know, it just comes straight down, very limited spill, and it's better light.
And it's more controllable, adaptable, so you can modify when
Would have
something's a
been
problem.
great. We could have known to.
If you let me butt in for a minute, the first oval's probably still lit to 100 or 200 lux. That's going to be the same thing. It may not be as impressive now because of the years past, and they may not operate the same way. But 200 lux on an oval is 200 lux. Okay, we're going to LED light. It might be a more crisp 200 lux. The green might look a little greener. That's probably about the extent of it. But 200 lux should be the same no matter where.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm really inferring is that my gut feel is that the spill and all the other elements that come with this, so when you say it's more direct, it means there's less wash going elsewhere. And it'd be lovely to have experienced that to be able to explain, because I suspect that would have made it a bit easier to understand.
Light fittings also have real reflectors on them and things, so they actually even reduce that spill even more. So they have a whole lot of attachments you can add. Yeah. So
It's a difficult thing to conceptualise
It is,
because
yeah.
I'm not used to lights myself, and someone had to explain what the new lights were like.
All I'm really trying to say is, if we had an example where we could experience it, we said, okay, so this is what we see, and this is what we currently have, and then it would have been easier to be able to say, well, how is this going to fit on this new field? Sure. It will be different because the product's different.
Councillor Lohberger.
Okay, I've just got a few questions. Would it be possible, what would be the effect, I guess, on the use of the field if we put a few things in place, such as reduced lighting during practice? So, you know, saying that it must be less than 200 during practice, say I think you suggested 150. 100, 150. So is that possible, I guess, to start with? Can we request that the training takes place on the side of the pitch opposite the houses? Would that cause an issue for training?
I suppose it depends how many people you've got there at the time, and because you don't want to have them all just on one part of the field because that'll wear and tear there. And if you're having a match, you need to use the whole field.
Yeah, for matches, I'm talking just about training.
Yeah, I think yes, yeah.
But I just think...
But it's very difficult because you've got a field and you need to use it all.
I guess in training you can halve up the club and have half of them playing.
Yeah, but then we wear out one side.
The other question was, I live near a sports field that has training on it, and I take the point of the submitters that the language during training leaves a lot to be desired. Generally during games, players are penalised for that sort of behaviour, but during training, you get a lot of blokes yelling out a lot of swear words at a fairly high volume. Is it possible to request that the clubs take some steps to actually police the language and the volume of their players during practice? Because it is an issue if you live nearby, and if it's going till 9 o'clock at night, is that possible, I guess?
Yeah, I think we expect a respectful standard of behaviour by all our tenant clubs.
I mean, as I said,
We can
during the game,
reiterate that.
you'll be penalised for it, but during practice...
Well, point of order, Chair. I think there's a conversation sort of asking the question. Can I just ask the question?
It's a good point. Can we just keep it like? I know you got to face them to ask. You got to face the representation to ask the question, but keep it like quick question and answer through the chair. Sorry.
It makes it difficult otherwise to...
So So I think, you know, I've got language, we've got reducing lights, we've got potentially playing on the other side of the field, which isn't really possible. And I note that you're happy to have the lights turn off and cease activity by 9 o'clock. Okay, so the current documentation just sort of talks about lights off at 9. So are you okay if we were to add into this that we see that activity must cease as well by then? And that, you know,
Generally, if the lights go off, everyone goes home.
Okay, I think that's my questions, Chair.
Thank you. I think the director wanted to jump in at one point there.
Yeah. Well, only that the oval is used, can be used beyond that time during normal daylight saving period. And so we can't and we shouldn't be restricting the use of that oval for other activities like dog exercising and the like. So I wouldn't want us to see a restriction of the use of that oval beyond that time during, you know, daylight savings time.
Reduction with the removal of lighting makes the soccer unplayable anyway. Yeah.
Any other questions? I suppose, you know, we've said that we're happy to move to 9 p.m. So my original question was going to, which might be a bit redundant now, was there ever the expectation that we were going to have events going all the way through to 10 o'clock, or was that more of to give some flexibility and buffer? What was the?
No,
it does admittedly
so
seem quite late.
I can probably answer that question, and it was not expected to go to past 9 o'clock at all. We just didn't want to modify the hours other than what was allowed on the site. For that reason, is that other activities than soccer occur. So we wanted to operate the lights at 9 o'clock for the soccer, but people can still do things on the oval as long as it's lit, or head torches or whatever they're doing in that zone. As long it's not a game or there's no one's practicing, but if someone was walking their dog there or doing some exercise, we're interested in installing the lights and what time those lights would operate. And when it had come to us from the representations, we'd said, look, we had no trouble in reducing the hours if that is what the neighbours, if it was annoying for them. But we couldn't stop other people using the oval.
Yes. Any other questions? No. Thank you, guys. We'll open the item for debate. Does anybody want to move the recommendation, or does anybody have anything contrary? Councillor Dada.
I want to move the recommendation with the amendments that the hours be reduced to 8:30.
8:30.
8:30, so that it's consistent with the other oval.
Right.
Can we debate that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't agree with that, because that's an old planning scheme. It's as simple as that. The planning scheme's changed, and you know, anything that encourages people to get out, exercise, build community together, which sport is a great avenue for, should be broadly encouraged. And I think limiting the hours because it would adhere to a previous planning scheme would be short-sighted.
Any other, Councillor Harvey?
Question to the Director. What's the demand like in Hobart at the moment for ovals? I understand we're really pushed, that we don't have enough facilities to accommodate all the various sporting activities, and a lot of that's got to do with weather and wear and tear on ovals and things. So how important is it to have ovals available into the evening, especially when we might experience more heat waves into the future, and playing sport in the evening is, you know, possibly a better option than playing sport during the heat of the day?
Through you, Chair. Look, there is increasing demand for these sporting facilities, hence why we sought a funding grant from the state government, level the playing field for significant contribution, so we could meet the legitimate demands of Hobart to have this type of facility. Having the lighting obviously allows teams to be able to train mainly at night after school and the like, and you know, it's critical for us meeting that demand to have what is a fairly significant resource infrastructure social infrastructure to be able to use that within reasonable timeframes. And we clearly the officers believe that 9 o'clock is reasonable.
And there's been a program going for a number of years to put lights on ovals. Queenborough Oval, I remember that application coming, and there's been other ovals as well. I think Clare Street Oval, when did they get lights?
Maybe Ms Williams might be able to comment on the...
Before my time, what was it, 2016?
2017?
That's not that long ago. So there is a program, and the program's continuing to light ovals to make them accessible for longer periods of time through the seasons.
And look, you're right, we have got a program. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Cornelian Bay is another area that we would like to facilitate nighttime training and games if we can. But there's no doubt that, there is clearly an objective to accommodate this demand because of the health and physical and mental health attributes that come with playing organised sport and recreating. So,
Yep. Okay. So 9 o'clock wouldn't affect a loss of an hour. Wouldn't affect the fixture of a competition much at all.
No,
Okay.
we can manage it within that time frame.
And all of the lights we use are now to national standards that prevent spillage, that focus light on the pitch rather than elsewhere. Modern lighting, all like that. I remember the old lights. Anyway, so I'm happy to support the recommendation and happy to support the reduction of 1 hour to 9 p.m. So, thank you.
But not what's being suggested by the motion that we're currently debating.
No, I'm not going to support 8:30. So I'll amend that.
You'll move to amendment to that.
I'll
Okay.
move an amendment to go to 9 o'clock.
Okay, so we're currently debating the amendment. Then,
I won't support the amendment. I'll move that we stick with the 9 o'clock time frame.
Oh, well,
at some point.
Hang on, let me just... The substantive motion currently is what's been moved by Councillor Dutta, which is 8:30. So you'd be amending it back to... You'd be moving an amendment back to 9 o'clock.
Back to 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so we'd now be debating your amendment to...
Okay, right.
Yeah, we've kind of gone around circles there, but...
Can I support it? We have a motion, but we don't have a seconder.
We're in committee.
We don't.
No,
Okay.
non-committee.
Right. No, sorry.
In full council, just say in full council you need a seconder. In committee you don't. Yeah.
So now we're on the amendment, which is
We're
9 o'clock.
currently debating the amendment, which would be to run until 9.
Wait, have we amended the amendment? Is that what's happened?
No.
We're still debating the 8:30 amendment.
Councillor
the
Dutta,
standard
yeah.
motion with an 8:30.
Councillor Dutta didn't move an amendment. Councillor Dutta moved the motion, but the motion said that it will finish at 8:30, and then Councillor Harvey's then said, well, I'm amending it back to what was suggested as 9 o'clock.
Now we're discussing the 9 o'clock.
So we're debating an amendment to make it 9 p.m. Just so I know it's the kind of went in a confusing manner there, but that's what we're doing. We're debating 9 o'clock.
Sure.
And if that fails, it'll be Councillor Dutta's suggestion. So, were there any other comments?
I've got a question for through you for the director.
Sure, Councillor.
What's just off the top of your head, and I don't need a specific figure, but how expensive is it to pop up some adequate netting to stop the soccer balls flying through onto residential property to the north?
I wouldn't have a figure, but maybe Miss Williams might be able to comment on that. But
Depends how, I don't know the site.
Yeah.
It depends how the size and what you're trying to achieve, height, width, all of those things are factors.
I mean, look, I think we can look at any repairs that might need to be done, or raise that with the clubs concerned. So we'll take that on notice, and happy to raise that with respective clubs.
Well, I won't amend in that case, but I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
Dutta.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask a question through you to the director. On page 20, statement is made that with regards to noise emissions, etc., notwithstanding the above, the duration of emissions into later evening period has the potential for amenity impacts. Now, with that in mind, and the representation from the representatives before today, that point was taken and the hours was reduced. Is that correct?
Yes, I think what we're saying is a reasonable hour is 9 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Now, if you look at this whole thing, you know, the argument ought to be based on the rules and regulations that we have in front of us. The acceptable solution, clause 831A1, clearly states that it has to be between 7 a.m. 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays, and 10 to 5 on Sunday and public holidays. Obviously, this application does not meet that acceptable solution, and therefore it has been now taken to put this application under the performance criteria. So this is, in fact, not looking at the past planning scheme, but the present planning scheme. The acceptable solution says objectively it does not meet and it does not satisfy. Hence, we are looking at the performance criteria. And the performance criteria, if you look at it then, talks about a number of issues. Now, one is with regards to the lights and its emissions and its impact. It looks at noise, for example, and its impact, and the noise for cheering, etc., and you caler or whatever you do, that is noise. So, thirdly, it deals with traffic. Now, if you look at it in that context, if the report states very clearly on page 20 that there is a potential of the impact, then the potential, do we have any evidence as to what is the potential of that impact? Or are we making a likely judgment on the basis of the report? And so therefore I think the representatives have a case, and having asked the question that it be reduced, we are suggesting a compromise that they will accept. So those are the points I want to make when you look at it in the present planning scheme and what we are addressing. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the floor regarding the amendment? Look, I'll make I'll make one. I think I agree with the majority of what Councillor Dutta said. I think you know, and other comments have been said that, you know, we do have very in-demand need for these sport facilities. It's located and it's a particular ground that is in high demand. It is something that we want to be encouraging grassroots sports and those kind of sports, and I think everybody around the table agrees with that. And we also want to be balancing the amenity and the needs of property owners and residents in the nearby area as well. So there is a balancing act there. I did also think that 10 o'clock was probably, it struck me as being quite late, appreciating what was put forward as the reasons for that. Yeah, but taking on board everything that Councillor Dutta said, I think the same, like all those points would also reinforce the 9 p.m. time. And I don't know what the justification is to bring it down even further to 8:30 p.m. I think, you know, as far as what understanding we have for the likely impacts, I think it'd just be a matter of extrapolating what's currently there. But I do think that bringing it down to 9 p.m. Is a good compromise. In just reading all the information, listening to the representations, and reading the material that's been sent to us by representatives, we do need to also, you know, as I said, take on board what the need to preserve that amenity, and also to balance out our need to provide these facilities in a way that can be used properly by the community and meet that demand. And it is a sport and recreation area, so we do need to promote that and make sure that it is fit for service. So I would be supporting Councillor Harvey's amendment, look, I'm not sure if I'd suggest it out loud, but even if there was going to be some sort of advisory clause, we wouldn't be able to condition anything, obviously. But if there was some sort of advisory clause, just making sure that the clubs are aware of, or clubs be made aware of ensuring that people behave appropriately while they're using the grounds, given respect to neighbouring property owners. We could just say that we do that, given the council's the applicant, would be advising ourselves, but that can just be taken as read, unless anybody wants to suggest anything further.
I'm happy with that. Thank you.
That should perhaps, for you, Chair, in the conditions of...
We can't condition it. But
the conditions or the terms of reference that are given to the sporting clubs who utilise the grounds, it should be enshrined in bold print in that, not instead of just some verbal or an email that goes out. I can just see that being dissipated over the years and whatever, and that's got to be...
If I may comment, Chair, yeah, look, you're right. I mean, it's really the terms of conditions of the lease. Not a planning condition, but yes, I take the point, and we can take that on board. Yep. As the leaseor.
Because I do think that is entirely reasonable, and on one hand we do have the planning matter, and we are obliged to look at this from a objective planning perspective, but we are also the applicant as the council, so we do have a responsibility to make sure that it's being used correctly and appropriately and with respect to the neighbours, and I think that it's important that gets noted. Were there any other comments, or we'll get to voting? No? All right, so we have the motion. We have the motion to amend the time. We have the amendment to change the time to 9 p.m. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against say no. Show of hands. All those in favour?
Councillor Loberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Elliott, and Alderman Baracus.
And those against? Amendment's carried. So now we have the substantive motion, which is the recommendation, but the times have been changed to finish at 9 p.m. on every single day. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against say no. Show of hands. All those in favour?
Councillor Self, Councillor Loberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Elliott, and Alderman Baracus.
And against? You. That is carried. So that's now done. Yep. So thank you all for your contributions. That's been approved. We'll move on to the next item, which is everyone a chance to. Sorry, can we? So I'll just ask to have conversations happen in the hall, just so we can continue the meeting. Thank you. I'll give you guys a second.
No, I think the 9 o'clock was important. That extra half.
Oh, the low set stormwater problem one. They just need to do something better this time.
I don't think they can actually around it.
Okie dokie. Move on to item 6.1, planning advertising report. Is there any comment on that?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just draw the attention to a number of applications which will come to the committee next meeting on the 1st of February. On page 135, there's the 83 Melville Street application, which is a subsequent application by the University of Tasmania to allow for equal access to their new development. There's a visitor accommodation application at 27/1 Collins Street. On page 136, there's 73A Newtown Road, which is a social housing development being prepared on behalf of the government. And on the following page, 93 Princess Street, which is a residential development.
Good day. Thank you. Anybody want to move that?
Yep.
Councillor Harvey. All those in favour, or any comment? All those in favour say aye. Against say no. That is carried. We now have questions with that notice. Are there any questions with that notice?
Yeah, but I can't remember it. Put down.
Can we make sure that's minute?
Ask me after.
Going once, going twice? Nope. We'll move on to the closed portion of the meeting. Hang on. Councillor Harvey's moved that. Councillor Dudd has moved that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no.